box today. Might be nice.
What would you want for the box for?
Oh, I don't know. 50p. I don't know, but it's in there. Really. How much would you say roughly is in there?
I don't know. It's hard.
£15. What?
We're at another walk-in market today. We've already found a couple of really good stalls that we've hit the jackpot at, so can't wait to show you what we found. So I'm in a different room today because my daughter has her university interview downstairs, and I've been banished upstairs. So slightly less interesting background today, but we're going to go with it. Yeah, lighting's not great either, but you know, got to work with what you have. And also, all I can hear in the background is my husband packaging, and I can hear the tape gun going. So if you can hear something in the background, that's what it is. So this past weekend we went to 2 different jumble trails. They call them different things. I think one was called a jumble trail and one was called a walking market. We went to one on Saturday and one on Sunday, and we bought quite a lot of stuff, so it might be quite a long video. Feel free to watch half and then watch the other half later if you fancy. Found this cute little guy. He is Kerneweck. He's not worth a huge amount, but he was really cute. He was only £1. It wasn't until I got him home that I realised a child had been scribbling inside with a pencil. So that's annoying, really. But at least, you know, it wasn't on the base, it was inside. So when it's displayed, it won't show. But it does lower the price a little bit. But that's the stamp on it. Cornish pottery. It's quite collectible. People love these pieces, but it is quite common. So yeah, not a huge amount of value, and I've listed it free post for £11.50. And from the same stall I found this brass elephant. Very cute. Not solid brass. It's got a hole in it, so you can see that it's hollow. It does have some age to it, but it's not the most intricate of brass animals. It's quite simple in its design. It should fetch about £15 with free post though. So this is one of my favourite finds of the day. It is Schurich, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's a West German vintage planter. It's fat lava, and I just love it. I'm probably going to put one of my own plants in it and display it for a while. I have listed it, but I'm going to enjoy it while it's sat around before it sells. And they sell for about £35 with free post. So I'm very happy with this purchase. And then again from the same stall, found a Calepio tray, which is melamine, not wood. I remember these actually from my childhood. I think my grandparents had various Calepio things in their kitchen. So I was drawn to this because it reminded me of my grandparents and it reminded me of my childhood. Don't know if you can make out the stamp on the bottom there. Oh, just maybe. So that's what you're looking for with this kind of tray. It will say Calepio on the bottom, and this should sell for about £20 with free post. So from one of these stalls I found this wicker box bag. It's quite big. It's not really your sort of handy handbag size, but it's beautiful. It's really well made. It's got a solid bottom to it, so it could be used for picnics. It could be used for a small amount of groceries taken to the shop. It could also be used for storage in your house. But I was always going to pick it up because it's wicker, and if you know me by now, you know I cannot leave wicker behind. The house that they were clearing out was her 93-year-old mum's house, and a lot of the stuff was very vintage, very lovely. Having done some research on this particular bag, I've seen not identical ones to this, but bags of this kind of design that are described as 1940s. So it's got some age to it, which makes it even better in my book. And these sell for about £30 with free post. This I picked up really just because I liked it. It's got no maker's mark on it. It just seems to be a piece of unmarked studio pottery. I did wonder if it might have been Mexican pottery, but I don't think so, having looked at some other pieces of Mexican pottery online. I don't think it is, but it certainly does look mid-century to me, and I just really liked the design on it. And because I have absolutely no idea of its value, I have no idea who the maker was, and I can't find anything similar online, I'm just going to try for about £20 with free post on it. I think someone's going to love this as much as I do, and if they don't, I might just keep it. There seemed to be a running theme with one of the trails that we went on. We found 2 stalls where the person selling was clearing their mum's house, and both mums were in their 90s, so they had lots of lovely vintage things. And on one of the stalls, found this really gorgeous patience set, tiny little playing cards, 2 sets, one with a red backing and one with the blue backing, and they date back from the 1920s, so they've seen some action, as you can see from the wear on the box, but that won't detract from the sale. There are definitely collectors of this kind of thing, and I should get about £20 with free post back on those. I just thought they were so cute. Nick wasn't sure when I picked these up, but I just thought these were worth taking a chance on, and I'm glad I did. They're definitely saleable, and I should get a nice return on them, so yeah, quite pleased with those. Now these are stunning. I bought 2 of those. They are vintage. They're hand painted in Portugal, as you can see on the bottom, and they date from the 1940s. I do remember that my great-grandparents had a pot with a lid on it, which had a very similar design to this, so it must have been from the same maker, and when I was researching I saw something really similar to it. Yeah, I loved that. They used to be on display in the living room, and I always admired it. So when I saw these, it immediately reminded me of that, and it turns out it's probably by the same maker, and definitely of a similar age. They are quite sought after, and people do pay up for these, so I've listed the pair for £50, obviously again with free post, and we'll see where we go with that, but I have seen one sell for £25, so yeah, I'm hopeful on those. They are beautiful, aren't they? Really, really beautiful designs. And from one of those stalls we found some brass candlesticks. I've sold some barley twist candlesticks before and got about £25 for them. These do seem a bit more desirable because they come apart and they have a drip tray which you can take off and you can display without the tray, like so. So you can have the choice. The bottom unscrews as well. I won't do that right now, but it does, I guess, for easy storage. But yeah, this kind of design, it does seem to be a bit more desirable. So I'm going to try for about £30 on them. And alongside those were these smaller candlesticks with a really nice sort of raised design on it. And they say on the bottom, made in England. Thank you to Edward from Antiques Arena. He explained to us that if they're made in England, they're post 1910 and they're Art Deco, and they're actually silver coated brass. We did think there was something similar to that because they look brass inside, and although they're not marked as silver at all, which they wouldn't be if they were just coated or plated anyway, we did suspect that they probably were silver in some way. I saw some similar that were listed that were described as silver. So yeah, silver coated. And I'm going to try for about £25 with free post on those. And staying with the brass theme and from that same box, I then found a vintage lobster bottle opener. Now this should fetch about £25 with free post. These kind of bottle openers are quite collectible. Found this little brass stag bell. It says inside made in England, but I don't think it's going to focus on that for you to see. But yeah, it's engraved inside made in England. It's just a really stunning looking item, isn't it? I'm going to try for about £15 on that with free postage. Okay, from the stall that kept giving, we also got some vintage Christmas lights for £1. They're Nordic, made in Sweden, and they are like candles, large candle lights, and they clip on the Christmas tree. I would say, looking at the box and the design, that these would date around 1960s, 1970s. There's no barcode on them. Also, I've done a little bit of research, and very similar ones have been listed around that date range. When we got the box home and went to test them to see if they were working, we discovered they didn't have a plug, and they only had the 2 wires, so there's no earth wire on them. That's typical of European plugs anyway, and as I say, these are made in Sweden. Originally they would have had a 2-pin plug on, a European plug, but they didn't have any kind of plug, it was just the 2 wires. But luckily Nick had a spare plug, and it turned out that he had a plug that he had actually taken off something very similar, and he'd cut the wires and it had 2 wires sticking out, so it was the ideal plug for it. So he added the new plug. Then we held our breath as he plugged it in to see if they'd work or if it would just all go bang. And they work perfectly. They light up beautifully. All the bulbs work. There are 3 spare bulbs as well. So they were a winner, and they should fetch about £40 to £50. So from the same stall, we came across this bottle. It stood out to both of us, both me and my husband. But initially, I discounted it. It was covered in like a sort of orange gunk, I suppose, from where it had been in storage. I thought that it was stained, but it hasn't stained, and it's cleaned up really beautifully. We both thought this was a really interesting piece, but I very nearly didn't buy it. Not only did I think it was stained, but in the light that day, where you can see the moulding of the glass, I thought it looked cracked as well. Thought it looked cracked on the bottom. So that was another reason I discounted it. And we were totting up all of the brass bits, all of the other things that we'd found from that stall. And we kept going back to this. And then my husband asked how much would they want for it. And he said £1. And my husband was like, no, let's just take it. It's £1. Can't lose anything. And I'm so glad that he did, because these blue milk glass bottles, or just milk glass bottles, are very sought after. We found one almost identical that sold for about £50. Don't think it's in Poli, but it's certainly a genie bottle design. It probably would have been used for wine back in the day. It's got like a stopper in the top. But it is vintage from the 1960s and highly collectible. So, yeah, the lesson in that is always go with your gut instinct. For some reason I was umming and ahhing. I was in 2 minds about it, but we just kept going back to it because our gut instinct was saying, this is something special, grab it. And as I say, at £1, we were never going to lose anything. So it was definitely worth taking the chance on. Obviously, if you know anything about genie bottles, you know that Empoli designs are definitely worth picking up. You can get in excess of 100 on those. This one, as I say, worth about £50. Somebody also messaged me and told me that back in the 60s and 70s, Avon used to issue like bubble bath bottles in milk glass. This isn't Avon, it's definitely too big for that. But I did go down a little bit of a rabbit hole of looking at Avon milk glass bottles, and they're definitely worth picking up. So that's a bolo for you right there. Look out for coloured milk glass. These are in one of the boxes from one of the stores where they were clearing their mum's items, and they are door pulls, door knobs, drawer knobs, whatever you want to call them. And I just thought they were really pretty and worth picking up. So I've got a set of the blue and white ones and a set of the blue and orange ones. So I'm probably going to list them all together and try and get about $12.99 free post on them. So now for my favourite pickup of the day, it's this. I follow a lovely lady on Instagram called Vintage Adventures UK, and around sort of Christmas time, I think, she had a friendship ball. So this is more of an egg shape, but she had one that was round, which is a friendship ball. So because of her Instagram post, I knew what this was when I picked it up. So the history behind these is basically you would put a gift in it, and you would give it to a friend. That friend would then put another gift in it and give it to another friend, and so on and so forth. So, you know, it was sustainable packaging at its best. In modern times, they can still be used for that. You can still use them to gift to a friend with something inside. This most likely would have been used for Easter gifts because it's an egg, of course. But something else that you can do with them now is you can fill them with potpourri and hang them in your wardrobe or just in a room to make it smell lovely. You could also put a tiny little candle inside it, little tea-light candle, so that it would glow through the design. You could also probably burn incense inside them. So you do see them described these days as potpourri holders, pomanders, as well as friendship balls. Now, my husband and I were doing a little bit of research and we weren't really sure if this was silver. Some people have described vintage friendship balls as silver, but there are no markings on it at all. And I couldn't be certain on an exact age of them. I would think they're sort of early last century. So my guess is that it's probably, again, silver coated or silver plated. But one thing's for sure, it really is a gorgeous item and quite rare to see it in its egg shape form. You usually see the spherical ones. So I've never seen an egg-shaped one, and when I was doing research still couldn't find an egg-shaped one, so that's going to give it a bit more value. I'm thinking of trying about £30 on this, or maybe I could put it on auction, but I do want to list it on Etsy. So if you've got any other ideas or you know anything about this kind of item and you've got an idea of its value, please let me know in the comments, because it could be possibly worth more. Might hang on to it for a little while and do a bit more research on it, but yeah, definitely my favourite find of the day. So, filed under I love a jug. I bought this little jug, again just £1, and I didn't really know whether it had any value to it or not, but I wanted to learn something about it. It was obviously German, and it is a German wine jug. They're quite collectible, not tons of value in them, but they are quite collectible, and I should get about £12.99 with free post on that. So it was worth £1 and probably worth more just to learn a bit about German wine jugs.
What it down? This magazine. I think they're supposed to have like cork stoppers on them.
Yeah.
That's the first page I turned onto. Look at all this.
Oh my goodness. I'm sat in a car park waiting for Nick to come out from the co-op, and the co-op van's making a lot of noise, but I'm taking this opportunity to say hello. We are at a Jumble trail in London today, and we've found some good stuff already, but there's still lots to go through. There were about 128 stalls, I think. There's no way we're going to make it all the way round, but we're doing our best, and we're going to show you what we get. One of the first stalls that we came to, I noticed on the floor she had a vintage sleeping bag. These date around the 80s or 90s, and I've sold something similar to this before in a different design, and I got about £25 for it. So I knew this was worth picking up. But she also had next to it, oh, this one's heavy. This one's really heavy. She also had next to it this blue one. And I wasn't as interested in the blue one because I know that the ones with the brighter designs on definitely sell better. But she said she would do the pair for £5. So yeah, that was a no-brainer. So I bought the pair for £5. I'm going to list this one for £20 because it's not quite as interesting as this one. And as I got £25 back on the last one, I'm going to list this one for £25. Okay, so there's a story attached to this next purchase that I'm trying not to drop. I've got 4 stoneware beakers, I suppose you would say, cups. Initially I picked them up as a set with a wine carafe. Unfortunately, when I got the wine carafe home, 2 things I noticed. One is that the handle unfortunately had previously been broken and it had been glued back on. It was a very good job, and in the sunlight I hadn't noticed it at all. It wasn't until I'd got it home and I was looking at it more closely, researching it and getting it ready to list, that I noticed that it had 2 clean breaks where the handle had come straight off. It had obviously been dropped or knocked at some point, so I couldn't list it for that particular reason. But also I realised that it should have had a cork on the top of it. And I'll insert a picture for you just so you can see what the set would have looked like together, and you can see what I mean by the fact that it should have had a cork on the top of it. When I bought it, I did ask the lady if it was meant to have a lid, and she said that she'd bought it like that herself and she didn't think that it had a lid originally, and it certainly didn't need one, so I believed her, but it would have originally had like a cork lid to it. So for those 2 reasons I decided to just list the beakers on their own. They are saleable as a set on their own. People do really like stoneware cups, stroke beakers, or whatever you want to call them. So I've not lost anything. Just for the beakers, it was worth the price that I paid for the entire set. I really do like the carafe, and for personal use, it's absolutely fine. The handle is still really strong, so I'm thinking that I'm going to keep that for myself. But I have decided that I'm going to part with the beakers, stroke tumblers, stroke cups. They should be worth about £15 to £20 as a set of 4. So one of the things I'm learning about the things that I'm drawn to, the things that I really enjoy selling, is I love a good piece of stoneware. I really am drawn to stoneware, and I found this gorgeous planter. It does look like a huge wine glass. That would suit me on a weekend, but it it is actually a planter. Or it could be used as what they call a spoon vase, where you would put this on your table and you would use it to put your cutlery in. But I would think that this would be used as a planter. I've certainly listed it as such and taken the photos with a plant in. So yeah, planter, plant pot holder. It's made by Buxton Mill. There is some markings on the bottom there. And it is vintage. I think I paid about £2 on that, and I've listed it on Etsy for £30. So my philosophy on pricing is to price something for the maximum that I think that I can get for it, and give that a go for a few weeks. If there's no interest, then I'll drop the price. So yes, I've tried £30 on that. And just to add that when I list on Etsy, everything is free post. So I integrate the price of the postage into the selling price. So although I say £30, it's probably something more like 25 with postage and packing on top. So, story time again. This is my own. This is something that I've had sat on my desk. I generally use it just to put, things like memory cards and batteries and things that I don't want to lose on my desk. And originally it was my husband's mum's, and she actually passed it on to me with a plant. So she was using it as a saucer for plant pots, and I have used it as that in the past. and you can see on the bottom it is dragon pottery made in Wales. I've never really thought much about it, but I have seen people pick up dragon pottery, and it does seem to be quite sought after, but I've never thought about parting with this until today. I picked this up at one of the Jumble trails, and although it doesn't have any markings on the bottom, as soon as I saw it I just thought, oh yeah, that's dragon pottery, because of the colours, because of the design. But now I'm doubting myself. It might not be authentic or original dragon pottery, not sure, but I was thinking that I might add that in with it and list them as a pair. If I did that, I would price it at £20 for the pair with free post. If I don't list it, then I quite like it, and I've always liked this, to be honest, so I'm in two minds whether to part with it. I have to say, I'm in two minds. I thought they would make a good pair. Maybe I'll just put a plant in it and keep it for myself. I don't know. What do you think? Shall I keep it? From the same stall, I noticed this sitting on the table. It's by Arthur Woods. It's made in England. It's an interesting design. It's not really my taste, but I thought it was worth picking up for £1. It doesn't have a huge amount of value in it. I'm listing it for £16 with free post, but yeah, a few have sold that are similar to this, jugs of the similar design. There are definitely collectors out there, but it is an acquired taste. So on another stall, I found this box of placemats. The reason that I picked these up, they're not vintage, I don't think, was because they all have a really pretty cottage design on it. So you've got this one, and that one. Just so pretty, really, really pretty. And you can see from the back, they've barely been used, if ever. Only one thing wrong with them, which I didn't notice at the time. This is the last one in the box, which makes 5, sadly, when there should be 6. So it does seem strange because they, as I say, they literally look like they've just stayed in the box and not been used. So maybe they just used one of them on a table or something for display purposes, and maybe that one got damaged. Who knows? Who knows what the history of them was? But unfortunately, there's only 5 in the box. It does look like Jason placemats sell quite well, and I think the cottage designs will make them desirable, but because it's missing one, it does unfortunately devalue them a little bit. So yeah, I'm probably only going to get about £10, maybe £12.99 at the most back on them, but I will list these on eBay and I'll add postage to it, so that's one thing at least. If I had the whole set of 6, I might have been able to have listed for about £15 to £20 maybe, simply because anything cottagey, cottagecore is very, very trendy, very desirable at the moment. So that's unfortunate, but I won't lose anything. We found a pair of vintage ashtrays, which we've since identified as being trout, we think. It's got this maker's mark on the back, like a peace sign. But I couldn't find anything about this particular maker's mark, so I'm in the dark on that one. Sadly, it does have a little chip on the base, but that doesn't detract from the actual piece itself because it's underneath. It's not going to make any difference, so you're not going to see it. I did notice that I think on this fin there's just a tiny, tiny flea bite chip there, but again doesn't really detract from it. You can barely see it. But yeah, you can see that it is an ashtray because it's got these indents here where you'd obviously rest cigarettes on. However, they could be used just for decoration or as trinket dishes. There's a lip on the base, so you could probably actually hang them on the wall. That might even be what they did with these, to be honest, and that's why there's a chip there. So I paid £3 for the pair on those, and I've seen one sell for £15, so I'm going to try £30 for the pair with free postage. I was just really drawn to the colours and the design on them. I just thought they're really lovely. They'd look fab in a mid-century style home, or it might appeal to, you know, hipster types. But at the same time, they would appeal to people who like fishing and people who collect fish items, I guess. So I'm never going to lose out, even though it's got those tiny little chips on them. So they were definitely worth picking up and taking a chance on. Another of my favourite items of the day is this saddler jug. I just absolutely love the design, 1960s, 1970s design on it. You can see on the bottom it says saddler. Sadly, because these saddler jugs are quite common, you see them quite frequently with various designs on them. They're not worth a huge amount. Could even end up being a keeper because I like it so much. But if I was to sell it, probably $16.99 tops with free postage. When I bought it, the lady said to me, "Oh, that was my mum's. I've got so many lovely memories of that jug. Please love it and take care of it." And I thought, oh, as a reseller, that always makes me feel a bit, because I know that obviously my intention is to resell it. But I also think that I will find somebody who is going to love it. And that's my job. My job is to find someone who is going to love and treasure this as much as her mum did. That might not have been one of the people who were at the Jumble trail that day. That might not be me, even though I'm quite tempted to keep it because I do love it. But if I do resell it, that person that finds this is going to be thrilled because they've been looking for this design. They may collect saddler jugs, they may just collect this particular design, or they may just love it as a one-off piece. But that person that finds this and buys it is going to love it. And that's why I love doing what I do. I love the fact that I can find good homes for things that I've thrifted, and I can unite that person with something that they've been looking for ages, or something that they've just come across on Etsy or eBay and they're absolutely thrilled to find. That's what makes it all worthwhile. That's why I love what I do. I'm always on the lookout for vintage bedding, vintage curtains, vintage material. It's just something that I really love selling. And I found these, which are vintage St. Michael curtains. There's two sets of curtains in this design. And there are also two single duvet covers. She had them all priced up individually. I think she wanted about £4 on the curtains and £5 on the duvet covers. And we got the whole lot for £10. So she was more than happy with that. So bit of a bargain, really. This is the label. And labels like that are 1980s, I believe. So this is a vintage 1980s design. What I'll probably do is list the duvet covers and the curtains separately. I'll do two listings for the two separate lots of curtains, and then do a multi-listing on the duvet covers so someone can buy one or they can buy two if they've got twin beds, and should be able to get about £15 on each duvet cover and £15 to £20 per pair of curtains. So for my £10, I'm going to do quite well on that, I think. This was the star of the day. It came from the same stall where I bought all the other planters, all for £1. This was only £1 too. And I knew immediately that it was again Zurich, not sure how you pronounce it. Let's go with Zurich. Sounds German, doesn't it? I'm sure you'll correct me in the comments. But yes, it is again vintage West Germany. And it looks like this. It is massive. So just to put it into context, picked up this one before, which is this size, and then found this one, which is this size. It's about 23 inches tall. It's one of the biggest pots that they would have produced, and they're quite rare to come by. Because of that, the value in them is quite high. So it, as I say, it was the star of the show. It was the star of the day. It does sadly have a little chip just there, which is a shame. But despite the chip, I should still be able to sell it for between £80 to £100. I think I'm going to shoot for about 100 because I've not seen one in this design. So I'm going to give that a go, but they are definitely worth looking out for in this size. Well, they're worth looking out for in that size. As I say, I'm going to list that one for about £35. But the bigger ones, because they are not so easy to come by, have definitely held their value. So yes, £100 pot. So thanks for watching. I hope you liked the video and enjoyed the haul. There should definitely be more videos like this coming over the summer. We've definitely got lots more jumble trails, walking markets, yard sales lined up to go to. So lots and lots of thrifting videos and haul videos to come. So if you enjoy a good thrifting video, I hope you'll think about subscribing, and I'll see you in another video very soon. Take care. Bye.